Polygamy has of recent been a focus of attention for scholars, traditionalists, human rights activists, and feminists. Whereas human rights activists and feminists regard polygamy as oppressive, discriminative, and barbaric, traditionalists view it as an institution that serves the interest of all members of society equally. In this video, Afterward brings you 10 African countries where polygamy is legal. Let's go. Uganda. Polygamy is legal in Uganda, where a man is allowed to marry multiple wives at a time. Due to this, most families tend to contain an abundance of children. Around 8.3% of all women aged 18 years or more are married or cohabiting in a polygamous relationship. A survey conducted to ascertain whether the people perceived it as unconstitutional or oppressive to women or not found that married people, elders, and traditional leaders among the Akoli saw the subject as recent and alien to them. Senegal. The most distinctive pattern of Senegalese marriage is polygamy. In principle, a man may have as many wives as he wishes, although most polygamous males follow the Islamic rule that limits the number of wives to 4. According to a recent survey, the rate of polygamy in Senegal declined marginally in 2015 in comparison to previous years. But the results of another study, which outlines the reasons why more Western-educated men in Senegal are entering into polygamous marriages, is set to get people talking. The overwhelming majority of men outlined reasons for taking a second, third, or fourth wife. Some of the reasons include a decision by my mother, since the first, second, or third wife was taken without her consent.
Shalima.
My opinion is clear. I never liked excisions.
But his mother betrayed his wishes.
This goes back in time. If it hadn't been the practice, I wouldn't have done it.
In Senegal, there is a privileged relationship between Senegalese mothers and their sons, especially in the case of the eldest and the last son. Added to that is a strong notion that the mother is a stabilizing factor in the family and hence can introduce that quality by selecting a wife for her son. The reason which is tied to family obligation is the woman is my uncle's daughter and I cannot refuse. In this case, it is the uncle who will oblige his nephew to take his daughter into wedlock. Refusal very often leads to family disputes and discord. The humanitarian reason, locally said, Damakoyarum, is given. The translation from Wolof would be, she was in a difficult situation and I only meant to help her out, but eventually it turned into marriage. Tanzania. 1 in 4 married women in rural Tanzania have at least one co-wife. Maasai women often enter polygamous marriages with wealthier men in the community, unlike the Meru, who live in the fertile mountain slopes near the city of Arusha and tend to be better educated and monogamous. Tanzania's Law of Marriage Act allow men to contract polygamous marriages and permit the marriage of 15-year-old girls, while the minimum age of marriage for boys is 18. A Tanzanian man, especially Muslim men, are allowed to marry up to 4 wives. Kenya. A 2014 new law passed in Kenya makes it legal for a man to marry as many women as he wants, and a leading women's group is applauding it. President Uhuru Kenyatta signed the polygamy bill into law, thereby formally recognizing what has long been a cultural practice in the nation. Parliament passed the bill despite protests from female lawmakers who angrily stormed out at the time.
And African men are potentially polygamous, Mr. Speaker. And for that reason, there is no need of information. When you marry an African woman, she must know the second one is on the way. The third one is on the way. The fourth one is on the way, Mr. Speaker.
Marriage is the voluntary union of a man and a woman, whether a monogamous or polygamous union, Kenyatta said. Nigeria. Marrying multiple wives is a lot less common among educated people in Nigeria, but polygamy still happens in rural areas, especially in the Muslim north.
Or 2 wives, he will get problem. Somebody should think twice that a man with 86 wives, without using anything, is God that brought us to him.
It is legal. Though the official marriage registry only allows 1 wife, it also has a clause that allows a marriage under customary law. Under the traditional form of customary marriage, there exists no limit on the number of wives a man is entitled to, either jointly or in sequence. The fact that a marriage contract was not contracted pursuant to the Marriage Act does not make it illegal or not legally recognized. Likewise, the fact that polygamous marriage is unwelcome under the Nigerian Marriage Act does not make it illegal. Botswana. The current status of polygamy is difficult to determine in Botswana as legal or not. Only marriage between a single man and woman is permissible, though there is a notable loophole. A man can marry his first wife, that is always called a village wife, under customary marriage, while then marrying his second wife under civil law. While the practice was thought to have long disappeared from the region, it has been noted that polygamous unions are still active in Botswana, though not common. Gabon. Legal in both forms, but only practiced by men. Couples must declare their polygamous intent before first marriage, but men are allowed to change their answers later. Under Gabon's penal code, both men and women may have more than 1 spouse. However, in practice, typically only men take multiple spouses. Mali. Polygamy isn't frowned upon in Mali at all, but before marrying first wife, husbands must get permission to marry more wives in the future. However, some husbands circumvent this with informal religious marriages. Up to 4 wives is allowed. Togo. According to Togo's personal and family code, polygamy is legal. 2 sources indicate that approximately 54% of married women in the country are in a polygamous marriage. Most marriages in Togo are not registered with a civil registrar, and people can freely declare whether they are monogamous or polygamous. Some wives do not or pretend not to know that their husbands are polygamous, while others accept the situation with more or less reluctance. Some even oppose it, but they do so more by running away rather than seeking the legal remedies available to them. This is because in Togo, it is frowned upon for a woman to show jealousy or to oppose polygamy. Eswatini. Leadership by example. The saying goes, polygamy in Eswatini is legal but rare due to high dowry prices. Eswatini has a dual legal system of common law based on Roman Dutch law and traditional unwritten Swazi law. Polygamous marriages are mostly performed under traditional law, but also sometimes under civil marriage. If you want to know the biggest polygamous family in this country, just pay a visit to the palace of King Swati III, and you'll be amazed by his 16 wives. It is said he recently ordered the men to marry at least 5 wives, or they get to serve some jail term. This information was later marked as false.